Before I get into this, let me say up front, I have not, and this was long before the Colin Kaepernick thing, I have not watched the NFL regularly in years. I had to look up who this guy Antonio Brown is, and apparently he's a very controversial player who recently had a bad falling out with the Raiders to go with the New England Patriots. And then all of a sudden these rape allegations come up. Now, personally, I find rape disgusting, abominable, and anybody that commits it, be they man or woman, on any human being, deserves what they get. That being said, looking into this story, as much as I want to believe Brittany Taylor's story, as you saw her face at the beginning, with Antonio Brown, by the way, a clip from a video that supposedly around the time that she was allegedly sexually assaulted and raped by him, that told a very different story. I actually saw the clips. That told a very, very different story, in my opinion. I personally think, and without going into deep details and everything, as much as I want to believe Brittany Taylor, which that's ironic since one of the first things when the story first broke out was that, oh, that's why you leave them white women alone, from the so-called pro-black crowd. And then it turns out that she's a black girl, and then of course it changed to, this is why I don't mess with black women. You know what? On both of those type of thinking and arguments, later for that. Later for both of them. In fact, both of them need to die a quick and horrible death. Both of those mindsets. Anyway, back to this. As much as I wanted to believe Brittany Taylor, the story just doesn't add up. 3 times in over 2 years, yet you repeatedly went around this guy and had contact with this guy. That doesn't sound right. I mean, if this was a big time executive with the NFL or something, maybe I could say he had some power, but Antonio Brown ain't got power like that. Yeah, he's a great wide receiver and all, but he ain't really got power like that. And let me say this, even though he seems to come across to be as a bit of a jackass, to me, what does he do that's any worse than, say, Terrell Owens years ago? Or a few other players that don't come to my mind at the moment. He doesn't do anything any worse than those guys. But getting back on to the subject, just something about this doesn't smell right. In fact, in those clips that I alluded to, in one clip, she was sitting on the edge of the bed just chilling. I mean, quite frankly, if I could take a pop cultural reference, my spider sense was tingling and telling me either these two just got finished screwing or they were about to screw. And what bothers me about her actions the most is that she went to a civil attorney to civilly sue Antonio Brown and to talk to the NFL. I'm like, why didn't you ever go to the police about this? There was not even an attempt to make I've heard of stories of women going to the police and the police didn't believe them and this and that. She never even made an attempt to go to the police. She went straight to a civil attorney. And she also claims she took a lie detector test and passed. I don't know. There's just something about this story that doesn't ring right. And I'm just going to be somewhat blunt. At this point, until facts and evidence backs up her story, I'm not saying don't investigate it. Yes, investigate it. However, that whole believe the women philosophy that Megyn Kelly and a few others in the Me Too movement try to push or continue to push, no. If I could steal a line from Mason Lucas or paraphrase it, don't believe men, Don't believe women. Believe facts and evidence. A lot of times we let our emotions and our personal biases get in the way and ignore facts and evidence in order to push a certain mindset or a certain agenda, that's also wrong, as well as we seen with that Felicity Huffman thing, which that's a whole nother subject entirely. But this whole thing just doesn't smell right. I mean, what woman allows a man to say, spew his specimen, shall we say, onto her back, and she not notice, and she's not offended, or she didn't break off contact with this guy immediately? And also the fact that she's engaged to another man, a man that she's been dating, if she is admitted to been dating on and off since high school. That tells me that with her, concerning her and Antonio Brown, these two were he was probably getting that little cute booty during that period, on and off, on the down low. And then when Antonio Brown did do what she wanted him to do, she all of a sudden tries to turn it into a rape charge out of revenge because she didn't get that bag. And as a matter of fact, as far as being a trainer and stuff, he never approached her about that. She approached him, from what I understand. So there's just a lot that, like I said, as a man and as a person who hates rape and hates seeing people get violated and such, as much as I want to believe her, I gotta go with facts and evidence. And so far, the facts and evidence just sound funny. So far, the story just doesn't jive at all. And it wasn't like he held you in captivity. You kept going around him and kept having contact with him. That's why, to this day, I still don't believe Andrea Constant concerning Bill Cosby. Do I believe Bill Cosby was a creep? I'll be honest. Nowadays I do. But I still think he went to jail for the wrong one. Because I don't buy Andrea Constant's story for pretty much the same reasons I don't buy Brittany Taylor's story. But anyway, that's my gut reaction. Just research the story and find out for yourself. And decide for yourself. Me personally, even though I do find Antonio Brown to be a bit of a jerk, I tend to side with him at this point. Anyway, I'm out.